Hello, everyone. I'm Shanfei Zhang, or if you don't remember the first name, you can call me Alex. I'm from the UK, from University of East Anglia, and currently I'm a final year PhD student. And this is my last chapter of my thesis, and I'm trying to do this. Uh, Also, this is my first time touch subjective well-being or life satisfaction research. And the topic is about investigating the relationship between migration, their decision, and the life satisfaction. That's internally empirical study in China. So about the motivation so in the past like maybe 30 years that we've seen a lot Chinese population after this planned economic gone, and people moving from a western country or middle part of China move to eastern side. And this is mainly due to eastern side is more developed or southeastern, and then people are more looking for like a job opportunities, improve their jobs, or trying to find a higher earnings. And but also like in recent years, so we observe this kind of, well, if you say this like 28 million, or from the beginning like 2010, that 15 million population compared to the total population in China is not that big, but it's start like showing the trend, people slowly moving from the eastern side to the middle or western China. They're moving back, and this is getting more interesting to think if we have this more utilitarian perspective that we are trying to earn more, and then now we are trying to look at ourselves where we can maximizing our utilities. So like basically the research from like 2019 showed this when China reached to this up middle income country, this happiness being impacted by this disparities in China, and then from rural to urban side migration, or people they try to relocate them. So it's associated with a very lower happiness and emotionally well-being compared to like native people who originally in the city. And this relative disparation influence on their what do you say, like migration decision or relocating decisions a lot. And also from this the theory of return migration, or how satisfaction or dissatisfaction also influence on their decision too. So we are trying to also like from the utility theory, we are trying to maximizing our utility, or when they make their decision, they expect they have higher night utility level. So this is where I start thinking the research, and also look back to myself, even though I wouldn't be in the sample. But my point is, when I look myself now in the UK, I would like to choose myself to stay. But when I think if I would be in China, I wouldn't be as happy as I am now. Okay, but if you say like one thing about staying in the UK, I wouldn't be that happy. Must be better. And so let's carry out the research question: is the life satisfaction by controlling enough this basic control variables, that being the driving factor making mobility decisions or relocating decision, and also that's mobility decision increase life satisfaction, and eventually, well, the last question would be a bit funnier to say is, do we, like Chinese people, internally when we are there, we make the good choice? So the rationale behind, well, because subjective well-being is very cross different nation, different cultures, and it vary a lot. But the existing body of literature provides a quite solid foundation, establish this connection between subjective well-being and utility. And also this part has been quite, well, I would say past this kind of validity test thing, that cross different culture contexts and prevent this dependent ability of this within within a country or internationally. And so so this is part of like a literature review I've read in the past, and then so they just kind of proved that in international studies and internal studies it's being used very commonly. And also I would say it also depends first what is your expected utility or your expected value that when you make your decision, and also when you be there you may have a bit like an external shock from, for instance, like a paper from Eastern in 2009 and 2001 that claimed or stated that when people, their expected utility was high, they moved there, and then when they feel a bit wrong or have a bit external shock, their utility would be driven down to a bit like a 3, which is more like indifference, or we say, well, probably they feel less happier than where they were. And then for the data description, this part, or this is a data set I built it for the research, but it's carried out from 3 different data sets. So the first data set is a China Family Panel Survey. It's a survey led by National Bureau of Statistics, but it's run by the University of the Peking University. And then this including quite detailed like individual level data, and then about 80% of their observations are traceable. So it's allowing me to use a panel data way to access this part of research. And it conducts like every 2 years, but also so the most current data is 2020, but also they will release 2022's data very soon, and then conducting this year's data too. And then because, well, as a migration or there people when they try to relocate themselves, and they would also consider what is cities like infrastructure, what I can gain from the city. So I collected the data, city level control variables from China, each city's statistical yearbook. And then, however, well, when people now start, evaluating more about environment. So I wanted to including like a CO2 pollution this part. However, in the China yearbook, city statistical yearbook doesn't have it. So I took from the chart this part of data, and then I aggregated this monitoring data from daily to yearly. So this is the whole like a structure of my data set. And so this is the I will show you this is later has like a schematic diagram to show what I'm trying to capturing between the first 2 questions. So the first part, because I'm trying to see is life satisfaction being the driving factor to migration, their decision. So here is the panel probate structure, and then so for the individual, their control variable, here I controlled also for their like year of schooling, of course, and also age, gender only between male and female. And also family tie is something that we have a strong connection. So this is defined as how many times that as an individual person you have dinner with your family in a week. So this is like a number between 0 to 7. And also whether the job in the city, unfortunately in the survey didn't people answer their like what exactly your occupation as, but I could only to access, okay, your job is in an urban city, or your job is in kind of like a rural area. And also people, they're religious, which is also part of like in the literature, when people making their decision will think, okay, well, my religious is like maybe Muslim or Catholic, whatever there. And then they would think of, okay, is there like kind of community there? So, and also marital status as well. And also the rest is like a city level control data group. And also for the second question is after I moved there. So is that my decision make me feel happier or like my increasing my life satisfaction? And then in this case, I create for this second like a panel structure estimation in ordered probit. And so for this two part like equation, so the green arrows is from like in the past that your life satisfaction give you this motivation. This is trying to capturing, and also the red arrow is for capturing after you make the decision. You're already in the city and you reevaluate your life satisfaction. So to see after the decision you make, you'd feel happier or not compared to those people who never moved or who didn't move. And another thing would be a bit tricky in this kind of like empirical research is the identification, and probably we can argue that there's a lot quite a strong endogeneity between these two factors. So even though, sorry, go back a bit. So I use the lagged life satisfaction as the like a driving factor to make your decision. However, so the life satisfaction is quite like a persistent variable. It's like a stock in our life. So you wouldn't, because also this is the feature of data, right? So we only observe or ask those participants every 2 years. So it's quite short eventually. So it's more like a conservative way that I adopted to use an IV or like a joint IV to control for this. And then so I use the commute time and the weekly overtime work hours as a joint instrument variable in the end. And I understand, so to work overtime and commute time, when you have longer, you feel less like a dissatisfied. However, people also, I mean, we had this argument about commute time. If you live a bit too far from where you work, and then you may want to maybe just move to another city. So, to my argument is that based on two reasons. One is more observable that in China, most people where they work, where they live. Also, like I mean, where they live is within the city rather than they would have this cross board. Okay. And also, we did some other more statistical evidence to prove that is before you move. So in the moving sample, if you moved and then, so you're always moving, or if you only moved in 2012, 2000, maybe 4, 6, 18, 20, and then I compared their commute time before and after. And then the data statistic didn't show me any like evidence that it has a significant change. So in some way that my argument is that we can rule out people, their moving decision because they want to have a shorter commute time. And then speak of this overtime work is in China is quite common. And this is also stated in labor market report in China 2019 and 2020 in 2 years. And then to the equation 2, which is the function of after you move that trying to see would increase life satisfaction. And then in that case, we make our moving decision probably looking for a better city or in some way. And then from there, I got this inspiration by Campbell's paper in 2015 that they used more like an average, like a distance from where you move, where you want to move to the coastal city. And then for those coastal city, identification is between 19th and 20th century. So after basically like a opium war, there are like about 48 treaty ports being opened, and then from there the city carry out more like import export and also this economic like opportunities than other cities were more like inland without we say more like a political reason. So from there, I recalculated those distance, and then from there, they use the average, like I mentioned. But from my perspective, indeed, but to some city, if you say they are very close to city, may decrease the impact. So from my perspective, I use the minimum distance that of course, if you say city, people moved very short, so the impact would be also probably very low. And another feature I want to mention here is that in most literature doesn't really exist for the panel data. This panel probability and panel order probability estimation doesn't exist like a very good way to do a two-stage least square. And so in this case, I followed the sort of inspiration from Rodman 2009 at the beginning, and then the newest version is 2023 paper to use conditional mixed process. So in this case, what I mean is conditional mixed process would allow you, if we go back a little bit to think traditionally that we would use two-stage least square over first stage, and then we take the fitted value, throw in the second stage. So it's more like a manually, and then also to be robust to calculate standard error wouldn't be as same as we just simply use one what is like command. But in this case, conditional mixed process command would allow you your first stage not only as when we use like IV probability modeling. So your first stage, the default is linear estimation, but in this case, you can set your first stage as respect to the feature of your independent variable. So it can be like linear estimation. It can be possibly like probability or ordered probability in any case. So that's also from March of 2013. That paper also suggested this is more like a sophisticated estimation as well. And so this is for after the I just rewrite this two equation for showing to you, and then sorry, may I ask how many time I have? All right, thank you. So let's go to the result. And also, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention one more thing that for this part of like IV specification test that conducted by just simpler, like in the linear way, because also in conditional mixed process doesn't give this kind of test numbers. And then for some, because I wanted to conduct them as well, because sometimes when we argue with more like economic situation, they more focus on this kind of statistics. And the institution is that if an IV, even though this is more relaxed version, but if this can work in a linear estimation, it also may imply the same power as in like this nonlinear estimation in terms of this binary or ordered probability. And also this this conducted or like followed Di Maria their paper in 2018. And so we can see these two instruments are quite the relevance test is lovely, and also from the overall result, we can say from my understanding is that like the left satisfaction doesn't really give you this motivation wants to move. But also, it would be also interesting to me to see, okay, what if when we break down this like the left satisfaction to each level, because eventually this is a categorical variable, right? So this getting a little bit, I would say, more interesting. That when we break down, we can see two people who had their life satisfaction equal to 2, which is more lower level, and then they have this motivation to move. And then from people like equal to 3, which is kind of like they feel fine, indifference, they don't have this they seem, well, it's not significant, but we can see this is signs getting negative. And then to those people or 4 or 5, they didn't really have this motivation from left satisfaction sides to move. And then apparently when we want to interpret the results, this is not really do, but it only give you association between the variables. So from there, I would say overall to left satisfaction in the past in China's sample doesn't give or like less likely make their moving decision by 6.3 percentage point. But interesting, like to those people who had left satisfaction at 2, they have a very strong motivation or very strong this probability wants to move by 29 percentage points, and then respectively we can interpret left satisfaction at 4 and 5, and they less likely move or make this moving decision by 3.7 and 3.8 percentage points. And then now we go to the next one. So overall, well, this is a kind of I wouldn't say like really I want to say surprising, but I now from the result it seems people they do feel happy after they moved. And also again, when I calculate this what is like a marginal effect table, that is more like a conditional based on when people they moved compared to who didn't move. So those people that when they're so left satisfaction after some people they moved compared to they didn't move is less likely report their left satisfaction getting lower, and then until left satisfaction is 3, and then to those people who are like a left satisfaction 4 and 5, they more likely report themselves to this higher left satisfaction group. So eventually, well, I would like to draw this conclusion that indeed left satisfaction to lower left satisfaction group gave them motivation, but to higher left satisfaction group, they don't. And also to those people who moved, they seems so far from my result, they indeed after move they feel happier. So in the end, I'd like to also draw the conclusion for the third question that I think we are making a good choice. Okay, so thank you.
First, thanks very much for the presentation. It's a very interesting study on internal migration on China. I have a few clarifying questions and comments. First, I'm wondering about attrition rate in your sample, because I think there should be some sample attrition across time, considering you have 5 waves across 10 years, and especially for migrants, that it's very likely people cannot be followed over 10 years time frame. And my second comment is, I'm wondering whether you are focusing on urban people or urban residents only, or you are considering both urban and rural migrants, because the stories might be different, and also there might be cases of return migration, and you might want to take into account. And my third comment is, I'm wondering whether you take into account migrants' connection in the destination city. I mean, if there's a larger networks of people from the same origin, they are more likely to migrate. And you might find relevant information in this China Migrants Dynamic Survey, CMDS, which is a representative survey for migrants. So you might want to take a look at those information. Yes.
Yeah, for so for the first question, you mean the proportion like people who moved all the waves, and so in each wave about 20 to 25% of my observations, they made like this moving or relocating decision. And also some of them, they kind of like repeated about, I think 800 or about 900. And then the rest of them, they only make made one wave or like two waves, for instance. And your second question, I tried to think about that, and identification is I didn't remove those data who are just like move between urban, rural to urban, or reverse. But we are trying to do a more dedicated estimation. Well, we were still trying to identify them, but eventually now we're thinking to do a bit like interaction term, that in term of sorry. So I mean, we can identify people from like a mega city, and also the capital city in each county, and also the rest of cities and also urbans give different time variables. And then from there, this is the further result. We're still trying to do this robustness check. And sorry, I couldn't show you today. And then the last question, I know this CMDS survey is wonderful and kind of like a traced panel. But the survey sample I cleaned once, and it didn't show too good. So after 4 waves, if I remember, that's about like only 4,000 observations. So because also maybe this is because which like first university or who takes lead, right? As I mentioned, the data set I currently use is led by National Statistics Bureau. But that one I remember is from like a Guangzhou University, right? So it's a little bit not that big data set, relatively smaller. So I didn't use that. If I answered all your questions, or yeah, we can talk later. Thank you. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Shanfei.